Wow, that looks artificial, but it's not. It's actually the light on this gun. Hello, everybody. Xeno on XFPS here talking about SCUM's zero point 0.8 update going nuclear. Man, was that an ambitious update, but here we're going to discuss how much I think they kind of screwed up in terms of the meta of SCUM, because that was a thump. A lot has changed in this update in terms of how things work and how much harder the game is. And it's in a good way, but I mean it's also harder in a very inconvenient way. We'll work down the list on the things they've changed, but we're gonna talk about cars last. We'll just put it that way. So first things first, they added radiation into the game. This is actually really cool because that means on the island there was a nuclear disaster on the eastern side of the island that you can actually use as a way to get treasure and use the uranium that's deposited on there. And I think they have graphite. Can't remember 100%, but there is a new lore reason to go explore and find very rare materials. So now there's hazmat suits. You have to find a way to filter radiation out of your system so you don't succumb to radiation poisoning and die. It gives more use to the Phoenix tiers because if you reach a C4 radiation injury, you will die of radiation poisoning unless you have those Phoenix tiers. So you need those to stay alive, and those have become even more valuable loot than ever before. And it's a lot harder to get now because they've added hazmat protection suits all over the military bunkers. And they've restricted the ability to break open the medical crates with crowbars. So now getting Phoenix tiers will actually require, I like to call it luck, because most of the lock picking in the game is luck. It's also tied to your thievery skill and how lucky you get, but now it is more tedious to get Phoenix tiers than ever before. They've even locked the actual hazmat suits behind uncrowbarable lockers. They do have crowbarable lockers, but they don't actually house the hazmat suits. They just house the gas masks. So they've changed the type of looting for that, and that's really interesting because now I used to stack Phoenix tiers like crazy because it was so easy to bypass the harder locking system, but now they're actually pretty valuable. Well, let's move on to the fame rework. Fame and money are now very intertwined things than they used to be, and this is still weird to get used to because we've been spoiled with the new trading outpost that they added in 0.7. So we no longer can buy whatever the heck we want as long as we have the money and it's in stock at the outpost. They're actually tied to fame points now. So you earn fame points more than ever before because now you can earn fame points in multitude of ways instead of just increasing your skills like it kind of was used to. You can get more fame points by earning high loot. I hear when you kill players, you can take half their fame points. So there are a myriad of ways to make sure you build and maintain your fame, and having higher fame means you will be a higher target because you need fame points to buy things in the outpost. Now, there isn't a distinctive list on how much each item costs in terms of fame points, but needless to say, don't find really good loot as soon as you start the game and then go head straight to the outpost because you won't be able to buy that much. So it'll actually be pretty smart to save up your fame, save up your money, and buy things you absolutely need instead of just have it for fun. Because like someone like me, I would buy food there all the time. Food was a non-issue at the trading post because I would never starve, and I'd have the most like healthy built character because I could just buy so much of the food in the game. There's no reason to loot for food if you just had a decent supply of money. Now that your fame points are tied to your buying ability in the outpost, which kind of makes sense if you really think about it. If you know the lore of SCUM, the more risks you take, the more famous your character would get in the show of SCUM. SCUM is a TV show. So you buying things to make your life easier would probably make you less famous. So buying these easier items instead of finding them would obviously make you less of a nice target to be, in terms of popularity. Because even in the lore in the game of SCUM, you're supposed to have it where if you have a lot of fame points, you become a high priority target. So this is actually a cool way to balance how how valuable of a target you want to be, because if you can gain enough fame to keep yourself somewhat famous, but spend enough to make sure you're well protected, it's a pretty fun game to balance that out as you loot and kill and survive. So that's all tied into the thing. Money is now tied to a banking system where you need a card now to. You don't need, but you would highly recommend having a bank card that's supplied by the Tech One Corporation, so you can actually respawn on the island properly, because you can now permanently lose your character if you owe Tech One too much money. So having to save your money at ATMs, go to the outposts, and actually deposit the money you've earned and sold across the trading and looting is now essential. It helps keep the gameplay loop of visiting the outposts but not relying on the outposts for that stuff. You can actually have your cards stolen by other players. Your money can be safeguarded if you have a higher priority bank card, because they would need the PIN to take your money in the first place. Things of that nature. It adds a lot more of this cat and mouse PvP element to that. So those are pretty well intertwined into the new system. I find it kind of interesting, even though I mostly play on a private server. So other than the fact that I know buying a gun is probably going to really drop your fame, and you need the fame to even get the gun in the first place, this is actually pulled back the neediness of the trading outpost. You don't want to rely. You can't rely on it too much anymore, unless you're really, really good at looting in the game. So what was the next major update in the game? Farming. Farming works wonderfully in this update. There's nothing I find that's wrong in farming other than the fact that you can cheese calorie gain by converting your fruits and vegetables into seeds. If you're really low on food and you don't need a lot of water, like you need calories and not water, you can easily like rip your pumpkin seeds out of your pumpkins and get easy calories. More calories than you would have eating the actual fruit or vegetable, which is really weird. So that's the only thing I find weird in the farming. It's nice to see that there's actual depth into it instead of just water it and make sure it has decent sunlight. There's things like fungus, things can rot. There's pesticides. There's pests you need to take care of. That you have each corresponding thing to make sure you keep your farming lot well weeded, and pesticides to keep pests out, and fungicides to prevent your crops from rotting. So there's a wonderful gameplay loop there. And if you want your crops to actually live longer and flourish better, they have fertilizers you can find. I wish you could make your own. That'd be a kind of a neat thing. But farming is really well. They've added so many more fruits and vegetables to the game for farming that there's actual decent variety that you can actually make now and find on the island. So farming was a wonderful addition, especially since they added the ability to make your own modular base. They have modular base building. This was a big one because most other survival games kind of have this from the get-go, but they've made it a very intelligent way. They've made it in a very intelligent way to make sure you can't overcomplicate your base and make it like a weird, cheap-looking object in the play space. They've done their best to make a stability system for modular base building so things make sense in the world. When you make a tower that's 3 stories tall, you actually need the foundation and support to build it. I'm surprised how grindy it actually is to make these bases, especially if you're alone. So don't... The new modular base building really does encourage that you form a squad to survive, because you really don't want to get caught building a base and then get shot. So that's really cool that they added that. I hope they add more decorations and furniture options for the game, because we really don't have a lot. They really focused on actually just making sure modular base building worked before they released it. So hopefully over time they release content patches that make you actually want to be inside your base other than storing your loot. But that is another major thing. That's a lot of major overhauls when you think about it in terms of SCUM's development process. 0.7 added planes in the trading post, 0.6 added motorcycles, more clothes and revolvers, I believe. I haven't really been in the game since those came out, but I'm pretty sure every other major update made things feel a little more alive in terms of like the water. They added boats. Those are like one major thing per patch. This one was like multiple. And the one that they really screwed up on, in my opinion, is the modular cars. This is the part where I'm going to get a little ranty because they decided to completely get rid of every other vehicle in the game to put in place these modular car systems because in theory, every vehicle should be modular when they added this modular system, and it's just not all of them were ready for the 0.08 update. So what they decided to do is have two cars come out for the modular car system and then work their way up through content updates from there. The problem is they have one car that's not working, so they only have one car now, and it's the imitation Volkswagen car. So they're only that car. They got rid of bikes for some reason. This one doesn't make any sense to me because bikes aren't too modular in themselves, and having just these cars is now really weird to see proliferated all over the island. And the fact that they've had entire point updates focus on these things that they have now removed is it's incredibly weird in terms of their development process. Planes are now gone. I'm pretty sure that means they're trying to find a way to make planes modular because why else would they get rid of them other than for balance purposes? So having half of point seven's entire reason for that update is now gone. You cannot spawn them. You cannot force. These are removed from the game like files completely. Why? I don't know. So hopefully they can find a way to get that working soon, and hopefully not in a buggy way, because as of this current video, even the Volkswagen car barely functions in terms of its ability to be a car. How do we describe some of the major progression systems? Like, what are the good things that came out of this modular car system? Well, in terms of lore, you don't always find a perfectly working car right off the bat. Cars could be missing engine pieces, alternators, batteries, car doors, car seats, things like that. You can now put armor on these cars to make your cars actually take resistive damage to other players and the environment and stuff. That was the whole entire concept for it. It was really cool. But in terms of its current functionality, it barely works. Yes, you can customize your car now. You can go to the mechanic in the trading post, spend money to add doors, have the guy install doors if you don't have the mechanical knowledge to do that, add the armor on there, pay the money to put the armor on there, and that all works. But as far as I know, the armor actually doesn't even protect you. So putting it on is just for cosmetic purposes right now. Cars are basically invincible other than to gunfire, so you can run into a tree at 90 kilometers an hour and take 0 damage. Things bounce all over the place. The physics are wonkier. You're not actually as stiff as a car would be, like if you were to drive one of the SUVs that are now removed from the game. Those controlled like an SUV. It was heavy, rooted to the ground, and it drove and drifted like you would in a real car very accurately. Surprisingly accurately for an automatic car. Now these cars feel like go-karts where you hold the e-brake for a millisecond, you turn 90 degrees and you lose like 10 miles an hour and then you zip along. It's incredibly jarring to have this new physics system, and I'm pretty sure they're working to actually get this fixed or back to the way it was, because I joined the game right when 0.6 came out. I'm pretty sure when they first added some of the vehicles in like 0.2 or 0.3 or whatever, I'm pretty sure they controlled like how they do now for the Volkswagen car. I'm pretty sure they used the car's physics as that specific physics as a base and then worked their way up. So expect that to change really within the next few patches. It's just incredibly jarring that they thought it'd be okay to release it with that type of physics. It's so weird to have one kind of car and then nothing else. I know they're supposed to have two, but I would have waited to make it like an 8.2 update and keep the normal cars and then flip everybody for a loop when most of the cars are ready to go, because we're still supposed to get modular trucks, we're supposed to still get modular tractors, modular ATVs. Since I'm assuming every other vehicle is removed from the game, they're supposed to be modular at some point in time, because even bicycles aren't even spawnable in the game anymore, which means in theory we're supposed to have bicycles be modular in some way, shape, or form. I'm guessing with like impalability. That's another thing. Cars don't even make sound in this update. That's how buggy they are. You can drive right up to a zombie And according to your little HUD on the bottom right left of the screen, you don't make sounds. You can sneak up or sneak past them. They don't even have collision for zombies. So you can't even run over zombies. You just fly right through them. That's how little the modular, like how functional, how little, what's the word? How little the cars function on a base level for this game. They just got it enough to where you can drive it and put the pieces on, and that was good enough. Can't really take damage other than gunfire and explosives, or if you run it into a river like I have once or twice. But that's why I feel like they screwed up really bad, because a lot of the survival aspect in terms of looting is all based around these vehicles, and if you can't really, if the vehicles don't really work well, then your survival games are really, really, really hard unnecessarily. You know, really hard to bring just a backpack full of crap when you had a whole squad. And you can't really go anywhere on the island unless you want to run everywhere. That's why I'm still perplexed by the motorcycles and the airplanes being removed, because I know they're a lot more simplistic in terms of their modular ability. That's a made up word. They should have just kept those in there just so people had other options, because having just this one car is really weird. But I guess things will get better as time goes on. I'm just surprised they use this as a deciding point for the 0.8 update. I think they should have waited, because they still have announced that the male character rework is still coming out. So yeah, I find this new update has added enough to where I can deal with these cars being such a problem. And it still has this, like, it's even more addictive gameplay wise than ever before with this new Fame Point rework, the banking system, modular base building. It's just, once they get these cars up and going, then they will actually feel the true nature of this update. And that's all what I really wanted to talk about. Let's hope they get this fixed soon, because I'm only going to accept it as a minor, no, it's only going to be a minor problem to me for so long until I get really bothered by the fact that, yeah, everybody has basically invincible cars. So last thing I'm going to say before I end this really long, weirdly long video is I'm going to make a quick prediction on their update process tree. I have a feeling they're going to fix the physics for the car, enable all the damage again, where you can crash into like a tree and you actually have to find a new hood because you busted it or something. So they're probably going to fix that in an update. They're going to add the Russian car back in with the same update when they get all that fixed together, and then they're going to announce, and over patches, they're going to probably add the tractor next. They're probably going to add the ATV next, because they've already had concept art and models already made for this modular system. Those will come out in a couple updates in the next month or two. And then when they do the male character rework, whenever that gets finished, they're going to release the trucks alongside the same time the males do, because I have a feeling they're going to make a trailer just based on like males being manly in the trucks and stuff like that. I feel like that'll be appropriate, and hopefully at some point in time they can add the planes and motorcycles in too, even without modular functionability, because those were focused updates in the older patches. 0.6 was it was called the Hell Riders update. Right? Yeah. All about motorcycles. They added 2 to 3 different kinds of motorcycles. And then the planes came out for 0.7. That was half the reason why 0.7 even existed, other than the trading system. So they better add those in soon. They better get this fix rolling on. But other than that, this update is amazing. And I haven't even gotten to explore the nuclear radiation area yet, because getting the loot is so much harder now. It makes me really willing to go explore it and take the time to actually get this stuff going. But what do you guys think? Do you think my prediction is true? If you made it to the end, I thank you a lot, because this is a really long video, and all that stuff, I'm rambling at this point. What do you guys think of the 0.8 update? I'll see you guys later on SCUM, and hopefully they get these freaking vehicles fixed, because, man, they get stuck really easy. That's one thing I want to add right at the end. This is a super unprofessional ending. This is what I was actually supposed to talk about before we talked about the predictability part, but pushing the cars is a cool new concept, because you actually physically push the car instead of just flip it around. But they should have a way to add a legacy option to flip it around again, because there have been multiple instances where you push the car isn't going to fix it because it's upside down. You can't flip it around again, or you can't even go in reverse while you're pushing the car. So if you get stuck on a tree or something, you're kind of screwed unless you had another car currently functioning and a squad member to help you get out of that situation. Really dumb. I guess I should have tacked that on earlier in the video, but I just remember it now. So Yeah, let's hope they fix that. Hopefully, like at least give the option to flip cars over and move backwards while you're pushing cars. So until then, I'm gonna go enjoy this update some more because this game is like a Stockholm syndrome kind of game where you learn to love it the more you play it. But until next time, Xeno's out and have fun surviving out there. And don't trip on rocks because zombies do that.